The metal walls of Harmony Point Station hummed with the quiet buzz of air recyclers and power systems. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison walked down the main corridor, his blue uniform crisp and clean. He carried a small datapad in his left hand and nodded to the various alien crew members he passed. After 3 years on this station, he knew most of them by name. Jake had always been good at remembering names. It was one of the things that made him a successful peacekeeper. When you remembered someone's name, they felt important. When they felt important, they were more likely to listen to reason. The Kepler sector had been a problem area for 12 years now. 3 different alien species all wanted the same things: planets, resources, and respect. The reptilian Vector Empire thought they were the strongest and deserved everything. The insect-like Jiri collective believed their hive mind made them smarter than everyone else. The crystal beings called the Mordone Federation claimed they were the oldest and wisest. Jake had learned to work with all of them. He spoke their languages, understood their customs, and never took sides. In 3 years, he had stopped 17 different fights from turning into wars. Not bad for a human who most aliens still thought of as the new species. Today's meeting was about an asteroid field called the Silver Chain. Both the Vector and the Jiri wanted to mine it. The asteroids contained rare metals that both species needed for their technology. Instead of fighting over it, they had agreed to let Jake help them find a solution. The conference room was large and circular, with a big round table in the center. General Scart H of the Vector Empire sat on one side. He was 8 feet tall, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. His claws clicked against the table surface as he waited. Across from him sat Hive Speaker Cloak Tara of the Jiri Collective. She looked like a giant mantis with 4 arms and large compound eyes. When she spoke, her voice sounded like dozens of people talking at once, which always made Jake feel a little dizzy. Jake took his seat between them and activated his translator device. "Thank you both for coming today. I think we can find a way for everyone to benefit from the Silver Chain asteroids." General Scart H made a low, growling sound. "The Vector Empire has claimed this territory for 6 months. We have the strongest fleet in this sector. The asteroids belong to us." Hive Speaker Clegg Tara's 4 arms moved in complex gestures. "The collective survey ships found the Silver Chain first. Our hive minds can process the mining data more efficiently than any other species. Logic dictates that we should control the resources." Jake had heard these same arguments many times before. Both species always claimed they were the best at everything. He pulled up a holographic display showing the asteroid field. What if we divided the field into sections? The Vector could take the outer ring, which has larger asteroids, better suited for your heavy mining equipment. The Jiri could take the inner ring, where the smaller asteroids would be perfect for your precision extraction methods. General Scarth's yellow eyes narrowed. "You suggest we share? A Vector do not share with insects. And you suggest we accept scraps from reptilian primitives?" Clegg Tara's compound eyes focused on Scart H. "The collective finds this offensive." Jake raised his hands for calm. "Please, let's look at the benefits. General Scarth, your outer ring asteroids contain 3 times more raw materials. Hive Speaker Clegg Tara, your inner ring has purer concentrations of the rare elements your people need. You would both get more resources than if you fought over the whole field and damaged it in the process." For a moment, Jake thought they were listening. Clegg Tara's arms stopped moving as she tilted her head in the way that meant she was thinking. General Scarth leaned back in his chair, and his claws stopped clicking. Then Scart H stood up suddenly, his massive frame towering over the table. "I am tired of this human telling the Vector Empire what to do. For 3 years, you have interfered in the affairs of superior species. You are weak. Your people are weak. You have no right to dictate terms to your betters. Jake remained calm. He had dealt with angry aliens before. General, I'm not dictating anything. I'm offering suggestions that could help both of your peoples. Prosper. Prosper? Scarth's voice became a roar. The Vector Empire prospers through strength and conquest, not through begging for scraps like humans do. You are parasites, feeding off conflicts between real warriors. Jake stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible and non-threatening. I understand you're frustrated, General, but anger won't solve the asteroid problem. Let's take a break and come back to this later when everyone has had time to think. No more thinking. Scart H reached for the weapon at his side. No more human interference. The plasma blade ignited with a bright blue flash. Jake saw it coming and threw himself. Sideways, not to escape, but to shield Hive Speaker Tara from the attack. The burning energy cut through his chest, and he collapsed to the floor. Peace requires sacrifice, Jake whispered, blood on his lips. Not victims. Those were his last words. The recording devices in the conference room captured everything. Within hours, the footage was transmitted across the galaxy through quantum communication networks. Every human world, every space station, every ship in the fleet received the same terrible message. They had killed a Peacekeeper. On Luna Base, Admiral Lisa Chun watched the recording 3 times before she could accept what she was seeing. Jake Morrison had been one of their best. He had volunteered for Peacekeeper duty because he genuinely believed in making the galaxy a better place. Now he was dead, murdered for trying to prevent a war. Admiral Chun activated her emergency communication system and sent a priority message to Earth. Peacekeeper down. Hostile action by Vector forces. Request immediate orders. The response came back within an hour. President Alex Rivera's face appeared on the screen, his expression grim. Admiral, you are authorized to implement Protocol 7. All human forces are now under unified command. The Vector Empire has 24 hours to surrender, General. Scart H for trial. If they refuse, we go to war. Admiral Chun had never seen Protocol 7 implemented before. She had helped write it years ago, but never expected to use it. Now, as she began sending activation codes to human forces across the galaxy, she wondered if the aliens truly understood what they had unleashed. The Vector Empire's response came exactly 24 hours later. Emperor Thraxer appeared on galactic communication channels, his massive form decorated with battle honors and ceremonial weapons. The human weaklings demand justice for their fallen insect. The Vector Empire does not bow to primitives. General. Scart H acted with honor in removing an obstacle to Vector glory. If the humans want war, they shall have it. We will teach them their place in the galactic order. The message ended with Thraxer F laughter echoing across space. You would not be laughing for long. Fleet Admiral Ben Foster stood in the war room beneath Geneva, looking at the largest holographic display he had ever seen. The 3-dimensional map showed every human colony, every trade route, every military base, and every ship in space. Red dots marked Vector positions. Blue dots showed human assets. What the aliens didn't know was that there were far more blue dots than anyone had ever imagined around the circular table sat the most powerful humans in the galaxy. Colonial governors joined the meeting by quantum link from distant worlds. Corporate executives who controlled vast shipping fleets waited for orders. Military commanders from every branch of human forces studied their tactical displays. Admiral Foster had been planning for this day for 20 years. Not this exact situation, but something like it. Humans had learned long ago that peace was fragile, and that someone would eventually test their resolve. Now that test had come. Ladies and gentlemen, Foster began, as of 1 hour ago, all human. Military and civilian assets are now under unified command. Protocol 7 is in effect. We are at war. Captain Emma Rodriguez attended the meeting from her ship, the heavy cruiser Phoenix. She had been patrolling the border between human and Jiri space when the orders came. Admiral, my crew is ready. What are our first targets? Captain Rodriguez, you and the Third Fleet will begin Phase 1 operations in the Outer Rim. Your target list is being transmitted now. Foster touched his control panel and sent encrypted orders to ships. Across human space. What those ships received would have shocked every alien government in the galaxy. For decades, human merchant vessels had been traveling the space lanes, carrying cargo and conducting trade. What the aliens didn't know was that every single merchant ship had been built with hidden military capabilities. Captain Tony Miller commanded what appeared to be a simple cargo hauler called the Steady Prophet. His ship carried farming equipment between human colonies in the Centauri sector. At least, that's what his manifest said. When Miller received his Protocol 7 orders, he smiled for the first time in months. "Attention, crew," Miller announced. "Over the ship's communication system, we have new orders. Seal all cargo bays and prepare for military conversion." The Steady Prophet's transformation took exactly 47 minutes. Hidden panels slid away to reveal weapon turrets. The cargo. Holds reconfigured into launch bays for fighter drones. The ship's modest engines switched to their true power settings, tripling the vessel's speed and maneuverability. All across human space, the same scene played out on hundreds of ships. Freighters became destroyers. Colony transports revealed themselves as troop carriers. Even small passenger shuttles began broadcasting military identification codes. Dr. Ryan Park worked in a laboratory on Mars, but his real job had nothing to do with medicine. For 12 years, he had been studying every piece of information that human peacekeepers and diplomats had gathered about alien species. He knew vector battle tactics, Jiri communication patterns, and Mordan technology weaknesses. The Vector have 17 major military bases, Park explained to the strategy team. But their real weakness is their pride. They always attack from the front because they believe surprise attacks are dishonorable. They also can't fight effectively in temperatures below 20 degrees Celsius. This kind of detailed intelligence existed for every major alien species. While humans had been playing the role of peaceful newcomers, they had actually been the galaxy's most thorough observers. Every diplomatic mission had included intelligence officers. Every trade agreement had revealed alien industrial capabilities. Every cultural exchange had mapped alien psychology. Commander Kyle Stevens received his orders while his ship was docked at Armstrong Station near Earth's moon. The Retribution had been Jake Morrison's favorite ship when he served in the fleet. Now it would be the first to avenge his death. "Crew of the Retribution," Stevens announced, "our mission is simple. We're going to show the Vector Empire what happens when you kill a human peacekeeper. Prepare for immediate departure." The aliens began to notice changes in human behavior within days of the declaration of war. Vector Intelligence Officer Thakmer monitored human communication channels from his post on the border world of Kreshta. What he saw confused him. Human merchant ships that had been traveling alone for years suddenly began moving in convoy. Formations. Civilian space stations started broadcasting military identification signals. Most puzzling of all, human diplomatic missions began withdrawing from non-essential sectors without explanation. Thakmer sent a report to his superiors. Human activity patterns have changed significantly. Recommend increased surveillance of human space. The response came back 3 hours later. Humans are cowards running from superior vector might. Continue monitoring, but take no action. If Thakmer could have seen what was happening in human space, he would have recommended immediate retreat instead. On New Texas, The civilian shipyards had converted to military production overnight. Instead of building cargo haulers and passenger ships, they were now assembling destroyers and battle cruisers at 3 times their normal construction rate. The mining colonies in the asteroid belt stopped shipping metals to alien worlds and redirected everything to military production facilities. Human industrial capacity, spread across dozens of worlds and hundreds of space stations, had become the largest war machine the galaxy had ever seen. General Patricia Clark commanded the human base on Titan. Her official title was Colonial Defense Coordinator, which made the aliens think she commanded a small local militia. In reality, Clark controlled strategic reserves that included some of the most advanced military technology in human space. Phase 2 is approved, Clark announced to her staff. Begin deployment of the reconnaissance squadrons. I want to know the location of every Vector ship, base, and supply depot within 6 weeks. The reconnaissance squadrons were Commander Sarah Knight's specialty. Her stealth corvettes had been operating in alien space for years, disguised as research vessels and exploration ships. Now they would reveal their true purpose. Knight's ships used technology that humans had developed completely independently of alien science. While other species focused on bigger guns and stronger armor, humans had perfected the art of not being seen at all. Knight's corvettes could slip past alien sensor networks like ghosts. President Alex Rivera addressed the human population from his office in Geneva. The speech was broadcast to every human world, every space station, every ship in the fleet. My fellow humans, Rivera began, 12 hours ago, a Vector general murdered Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison in cold blood. Jake died trying to prevent a war. The Vector Empire has refused to surrender his killer for trial. They have chosen war instead of justice. Rivera paused and looked directly into the camera. For over a century, we have been the peacekeepers of this galaxy. We have prevented conflicts, mediated disputes, and helped other species resolve their differences. We did this because we believe in peace. We believe in justice. We believe that the strong should protect the weak, not prey upon them. His voice grew harder. The Vector Empire has demonstrated that they understand only strength. Very well. They wanted to see human strength. They killed a man who devoted his life to preventing exactly this moment. Now they will learn why humans value peace so highly, because we are exceptionally good at the alternative. The message reached alien governments within hours. Most dismissed it as typical human diplomacy. The Jiri Collective filed it under irrelevant political speeches. The Mordund Federation barely acknowledged receiving it. Only Emperor Threxer bothered to respond. His message was brief. Let the human children come. The Vector Empire has been fighting wars since before their species learned to make fire. They will learn respect for their superiors. Admiral Foster received the Emperor's message in the Geneva War Room. He shared it with the assembled commanders, who responded with grim smiles. Gentlemen and ladies, Foster said quietly, I believe it's time to begin our education program. The Emperor wants to teach us respect. Let's show him what humans have learned about warfare in our brief time among the stars. The war was about to begin. The attack began at exactly 0600 hours, Galactic Standard Time, on 17 different Vector positions simultaneously. The aliens had expected humans to challenge them to an honorable battle, fleet against fleet in open space. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any rules they understood. Captain Matt Turner commanded the destroyer squadron that hit the Vector mining world of Kethmer. The planet was supposed to be safe, protected by orbital defense platforms and a garrison of elite Vector warriors. Turner's ships appeared at the edge of the system like ghosts, moving silently through the asteroid field that surrounded the planet. Remember, Turner told his crew over the communication system, We're not here to destroy the planet. We're here to make a point. The Vector think they're safe behind their defenses. Let's show them how wrong they are. The first thing Turners people did was launch cyber attacks against the orbital platforms. Human computer specialists had been studying Vector technology for years. They knew exactly which systems to target and how to shut them down without triggering alarms. One by one, the defensive platforms went dark. Their crews never knew what hit them. The weapon systems simply stopped working. The sensor arrays went blind. The communication networks fell silent by the time the Vector garrison realized they were under attack. Human landing craft were already entering the planet's atmosphere. But these weren't normal troop transports. They were specially designed vessels that could operate in the extreme conditions that protected Kethmor from invasion. The planet's surface was a nightmare of toxic gases, crushing gravity, and temperatures that would kill most galactic species. Within minutes, the Vector had chosen it for mining operations because they thought no other species could survive there. They were wrong. Lieutenant Colonel Anna Price led the first wave of human soldiers onto Kethmer's surface. Her troops wore powered armor that made them stronger than Vector warriors and completely immune to the planet's hostile environment. They moved through the toxic clouds like deadly shadows. The mining complex is 2 kilometers north, Price reported to Turner. Vector defenders are taking positions in the main facility. They're trying to use the terrain to their advantage. Price smiled inside her helmet. The Vector were fighting exactly the way human intelligence had predicted they would. They formed defensive lines and waited for a frontal assault. They expected their enemies to charge directly into their guns like honorable warriors. Instead, Price's soldiers did something the Vector had never seen before. They disappeared into Kethmer's cave systems and began moving underground. The planet's geology, thoroughly mapped by human mining surveys years earlier, became their highway system. The Vector defenders waited for an attack that never came. Instead, human soldiers began appearing behind their lines, striking command posts and supply depots before vanishing back into the caves. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't see or predict. Commander Sarah Knight was busy proving that human stealth technology was far more advanced than anyone had imagined. Her Corvette squadron moved through Vector space like invisible hunters, striking supply convoys and communication relays before disappearing again. Knight's ship, the Silent Hunter, materialized next to a Vector supply depot without triggering a single alarm. Her crew disabled the facility's defenses, downloaded all their intelligence files, and destroyed their supplies in less than 10 minutes. By the time reinforcements arrived, the depot was empty and the attackers were gone. "This is impossible," the depot commander reported to his superiors. "Our sensors showed nothing. No ships, no energy signatures, no movement." Then suddenly, our entire facility was destroyed by invisible enemies. Similar reports began flooding Vector communication networks from across their territory. Ships appeared from nowhere, struck fast, and vanished before defenders could respond. Facilities that had been secure for decades suddenly found themselves under attack by enemies that seemed to exist only when they chose to be seen. The psychological impact was devastating. Vector soldiers began reporting ghost ships and demon warriors that appeared from thin air. Their rigid military training, designed for predictable honor-based combat, couldn't cope with an enemy that refused to fight fair. General Scart H. himself decided to lead a retaliatory strike against what he believed would be an easy target. The human agricultural world of New Kansas had a population of only 50,000 farmers and their families. Scarth brought an entire battle fleet to crush them. These soft human farmers will learn the price of opposing the Vector Empire. Scart H. announced to his officers, "We will make an example that will terrify their species for generations. Scarth's fleet arrived at New Kansas, expecting to find helpless civilians hiding behind minimal defenses. Instead, they discovered that human farmers were nothing like. Farmers on other worlds, not every settlement on New Kansas, had defensive positions that had been carefully prepared and camouflaged. Every farmer owned military-grade equipment and knew exactly how to use it. The local militia moved and fought with a coordination that suggested extensive military training. Farm supervisor Bill Carter had been a Marine sergeant before he came to New Kansas. When his sensors detected the incoming Vector fleet, he activated the planet's defense network with practiced efficiency. "All units, this is Defense Command," Carter announced over the planetary communication system. "We have hostile contacts inbound. Execute Plan 7. Show these lizards what human farmers can do." The first wave of Vector landing craft expected to face frightened civilians with farming tools. Instead, they found themselves under attack by heavy weapons that emerged from hidden positions throughout the countryside. Human defenders used their knowledge of local terrain, weather patterns, and seasonal conditions to devastating effect. Scarth watched in disbelief as his superior force was systematically torn apart by what he had thought were primitive farmers. His soldiers, trained for glorious combat, found themselves trapped in a nightmare of mines, ambushes, and precision strikes that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The humans used tactics that no honorable warrior would consider. They poisoned water sources that Vector physiology required. They used electromagnetic weapons that disrupted Vector technology, but had no effect on human equipment. They even weaponized the local weather, using storm systems to ground Vector. "Aircraft, this is not warfare," Scarth raged to his remaining officers. "This is barbarism. These humans have no honor, no courage. They fight like cowards and terrorists." Captain Rodriguez, listening to intercepted Vector communications from her ship in orbit, laughed at Scarth's complaints. "Honor doesn't bring dead peacekeepers back to life," she told her crew. "Let's see how honorable they feel when they're losing." The battle for New Kansas lasted 3 days. When it ended, Scarth had lost 60% of his force to farmers who had never attended a military academy. The survivors retreated in disorder, leaving behind enough equipment to supply a human army. But the real victory wasn't the equipment or the casualties. It was the message that spread throughout Vector space. Humans didn't fight the way other species fought. They didn't follow the rules. They didn't respect traditions. They simply found the most effective way to win and used it without hesitation. Emperor Thraxer received Scarth's report in his throne room on the Vector homeworld. For the first time since the war began, doubt crept into his mind. His forces were losing to an enemy that wasn't supposed to be able to fight at all. "How many human soldiers are we facing?" the Emperor asked his intelligence chief. "Unknown. My lord, our estimates range from millions to tens of millions. They seem to have unlimited reserves and can strike anywhere in our territory without warning." The Emperor's claws scraped against his throne. "Then we will strike at their homeworld. We will show them that the Vector Empire cannot be defeated by cowardly tactics." But even as he spoke, Emperor Thraxer wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were proving to be far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. And this was only the beginning of the war. 6 months after the war began, the galaxy looked very different from what anyone had expected. Human forces had captured or destroyed 47 Vector installations, while losing only 3 of their own. The secret to their success wasn't just better weapons or tactics. It was something much more fundamental. Humans thought about war in ways that no other species had ever imagined. Colonel Chris Hayes stood on the bridge of the terraforming ship New Horizon, watching as his engineers transformed the Vector fortress. World of Raktar Prime. The planet had been considered unconquerable, protected by massive defensive installations and home to 2 million Vector soldiers. Hayes had decided not to conquer it at all. Atmospheric composition is now 30% Earth normal, reported Chief Engineer Lisa Park. Vector physiology will begin experiencing severe respiratory distress within 72 hours. Hayes nodded and watched the orbital displays. Giant mirrors redirected sunlight to change surface temperatures. Specially designed bacteria, harmless to humans but devastating to Vector technology, spread through the planet's air and water systems. The world itself was becoming a weapon. "This is wrong," transmitted the Vector planetary commander. "Worlds are sacred. They are meant to be conquered, not destroyed. Your species has no honor." "We're not destroying your world," Hayes replied calmly. "We're improving it. In 6 months, Raktar Prime will have a breathable atmosphere and comfortable temperatures for human settlers. Your people are welcome to evacuate any time they choose." The Vector couldn't understand this approach to warfare. To them, planets were prizes to be won through glorious battle. The idea of changing an entire world's ecology as a military tactic was beyond their comprehension. It was also terrifyingly effective. Dr. Nina Foster worked in a research facility on Europa, developing weapons that other species would never have thought to create. Her team had spent months studying Vector genetics and psychology, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited without causing permanent harm. "The fear response compound is ready for field testing," Dr. Foster reported to Admiral Chun. "It won't kill Vector soldiers, but it will make them experience overwhelming terror for approximately 6 hours. Their own brain chemistry will convince them that they're facing monsters." Admiral Chun approved the weapon's deployment with mixed feelings. Humans had always prided themselves on fighting cleanly, but the murder of Jake Morrison had changed many things. "Deploy it against military targets only. Civilians are off limits." The first test of Dr. Foster's fear compound came during the Battle of the Helix Nebula. Elite Vector warriors, veterans of dozens of campaigns, suddenly found themselves cowering in terror as invisible enemies seemed to lurk around every corner. The psychological impact spread through their ranks like wildfire. Captain Luke Morgan commanded the carrier group that led the human assault in the Helix Nebula. His flagship, the Defiant, was destroyed in the opening minutes of the battle when Vector forces concentrated their fire on his position. Most commanders would have retreated or surrendered. Morgan simply transferred his flag to an escape pod and continued coordinating the battle from there. His mobile shipyards, hidden in the nebula's gas clouds, began manufacturing replacement vessels in real time. Within hours, human forces had actually grown larger than when the battle started. "How is this possible?" demanded Vector Admiral Kreshtok. "We destroy their ships faster than they can build them, yet their numbers keep increasing." What the Vector didn't understand was human industrial philosophy. While other species built massive shipyards in fixed locations, humans had learned to make their manufacturing mobile and distributed. Every human fleet included vessels that could produce fighters, drones, and even capital ships using raw materials gathered from asteroids and gas clouds. The psychological impact of this capability was enormous. Vector forces found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to regenerate faster than it could be destroyed. Human fleets appeared to be immortal. The war's impact extended far beyond the humans and Vector. Other alien species watched the conflict with growing amazement and alarm. The Jiri Collective and the Morgon Federation, initially neutral, began quietly supporting human efforts. Hive speaker Kalktara, the same Jiri delegate who had witnessed Jake Morrison's murder, met secretly with human diplomats on the neutral station Deep Space 7. "The collective offers the use of our communication networks for human military operations," she announced through her multiple voices. Ambassador Carol Hughes, Jake Morrison's replacement, accepted the offer gratefully. Why is the collective willing to help us? Because we understand what this war is truly about, K.L. Katara replied. You fight not for conquest or resources, but to establish rules that protect the weak from the strong. This benefits all civilized species. The Morgan Federation made a similar decision. Elder Crystal Thonekar transmitted a message to Admiral Foster. The Morgan provides sanctuary for human wounded and refugees. We also share our knowledge of Vector military history. Your cause is just. For the first time in galactic history, multiple species were actively supporting another species' war effort without being formal allies. The reason was simple. Everyone could see that humanity was fighting for principles that would benefit the entire galaxy. Emperor Thraxer realized his empire was losing when human forces penetrated the Victor home system. Admiral Chun's fleet didn't attack the planet directly. Instead, they positioned themselves at strategic points around the system and began broadcasting a simple message. People of the Victor Empire, Admiral Chun announced on all communication channels, your government killed a human peacekeeper who died trying to prevent this war. We offer you one final chance for peace. Surrender General Scart H for trial, and we will withdraw our forces. Refuse, and watch your empire burn one world at a time. The message was accompanied by footage of what had happened to other Vector worlds. Raktar Prime, now an empty shell with an unbreathable atmosphere. Kethmer, its mining operations shut down and its garrison defeated by human farmers. Dozens of other worlds and stations, captured or destroyed by an enemy that fought unlike anything the Victor had ever faced. But the most terrifying part of the message was what it didn't say. The human fleet surrounding the Victor homeworld was enormous, but long-range sensors detected even more ships hiding in the outer system. Human industrial capacity, distributed across hundreds of worlds and thousands of mobile facilities, seemed to be infinite. General Scart H himself watched the message from his command bunker on the Vector capital. The same warrior who had murdered Jake Morrison, in a moment of pride and anger, now faced the consequences of his actions. An entire species had united to seek justice for the death of one peacekeeper. My lord, one of his officers reported, we're receiving communication requests from 17 planetary governors. They want to discuss surrender terms. Scarth's claws scraped against his armor. The Vector Empire does not surrender to primitives. With respect, General, the officer replied carefully. These primitives have just defeated our entire military in 6 months. Perhaps it's time to reconsider our position. For the first time since the war began, Scart H felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Not the chemical fear that human weapons could induce, but the real understanding that his people faced an enemy they could not defeat. In his bunker on the Victor homeworld, surrounded by the greatest fortress in the galaxy, General Scart H finally began to understand what Jake Morrison had meant when he said that peace required sacrifice, not victims. The question now was whether the Vector Empire would choose sacrifice, or continue to create victims until nothing remained of their civilization but ashes and regret. The end came not with a massive battle, but with a simple surrender transmission from the Vector homeworld. Emperor Thraxer appeared on communication screens across the galaxy, his ceremonial armor removed and his pride finally broken. The Vector Empire formally requests an end to hostilities, the Emperor announced, his voice barely above a whisper. We will surrender General Scart H for trial and accept whatever terms the human government demands. Admiral Chun received the message aboard her flagship in orbit around the Vector capital. After 8 months of war, the conflict was ending exactly as humanity had demanded from the beginning. Justice for Jake Morrison. Prepare a boarding party, Shun ordered her staff. We'll take custody of General Scart H within the hour, and send a message to Earth. The war is over. The capture of Scart H was surprisingly simple. The general, who had murdered a human peacekeeper in a moment of arrogance, now waited in chains, surrounded by his own guards, who had orders to hand him over without resistance. When human Marines arrived to take custody, Scarth looked like a broken creature. "You have destroyed my empire," Scart H said to Captain Rodriguez, who led the arrest team. "No," Rodriguez replied calmly. "You destroyed your empire the moment. You killed Jake Morrison. We just made sure everyone understood the consequences." 3 weeks later, representatives from every major species in the galaxy gathered on Nexus, prime for what would become known as the Great Trial. The enormous council chambers had never seen anything like it, an entire species demanding justice. For the murder of one individual, Captain Claire Reeves served as the chief prosecutor for the human government. She had been Jake Morrison's partner during his early peacekeeping missions and knew better than anyone what kind of man he had been. Her opening statement echoed across the galaxy. Jake Morrison died trying to prevent the very war that his murder caused, Reeves told the assembled delegates. He believed that peace was possible if good people were willing to work for it. General, Scarth killed him not in battle, not in self-defense, but because he couldn't accept that a human had something valuable to offer. The trial lasted 12 days. Human prosecutors presented evidence that the murder had been planned, not a crime of passion. Scarth had intended to test human resolve and show other species that humans could be killed with impunity. The plan had worked, but not the way he expected. For 12 years, Reeves continued, human peacekeepers worked to prevent conflicts like this one. We gathered intelligence, yes, but we also genuinely tried to help species resolve their differences peacefully. Every piece of military information we collected was intended to prevent wars, not start them. The evidence was overwhelming. Video recordings showed Scarth's premeditated aggression. Communication intercepts revealed Vector plans to eliminate human influence in the Kepler sector. Most damning of all were Scarth's own words after the murder, bragging to his officers about teaching the human weaklings their place. Hive speaker Cluktara testified about what she had witnessed in the conference room. The human Morrison threw himself between General Scarth's weapon and my person, she told the court through her multiple voices. His final act was to protect one who had been his negotiating partner only moments before. This is the individual General Scarth chose to murder. The trial revealed something else that shocked the galaxy, the true extent of human military preparation. Admiral Foster testified about Protocol 7 and humanity's hidden defensive capabilities. The peaceful humans who had seemed so vulnerable were actually the most prepared species in known space. We didn't build this military machine for conquest, Foster explained to the stunned delegates. We built it because we knew that someday someone would test our commitment to peace. We hoped that day would never come. General Scarth forced our hand. Emperor Thraxer was called to testify about his government's response to human demands for justice. His appearance shocked everyone who knew Vector culture. The proud emperor looked old and defeated, his scales dull and his movements slow. I believed humans were weak, Thraxer admitted. I thought their peaceful nature meant they could not fight. I was wrong about everything. They are the strongest species I have ever encountered, precisely because they choose peace when they could choose war. The Emperor's testimony included a formal apology to the human government and the family of Jake Morrison. I accept full responsibility for this war, he concluded. My pride and arrogance led to the deaths of millions of Vector citizens and the near destruction of our civilization. General Scarth H was found guilty of murder, war crimes, and crimes against galactic peace. His sentence was life imprisonment on a human world, where he would spend his remaining years learning about the primitive species he had so badly underestimated. But the trial's most important outcome wasn't Scarth's punishment. It was the creation of the Morrison Accords, a new set of galactic laws named after the murdered Peacekeeper. These laws established clear rules for peaceful interaction between species and severe penalties for those who broke them. President Rivera signed the Accords on behalf of humanity in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. These laws exist because Jake Morrison believed that peace was worth dying for, Rivera announced. We will make sure his sacrifice means something. The signing ceremony took place on a new space station built at the exact coordinates where Jake Morrison had been murdered. The Morrison Memorial Station became the headquarters for the new galactic peacekeeping force, with humans taking the leading role in maintaining galactic stability. Captain Amy Zhang, Morrison's designated successor, became the first director of the Memorial Station. She stood in the main conference room, the same room where Morrison had died, and addressed the first class of new peacekeepers from 12 different species. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, Zhang told the assembled trainees. Peace is what happens when people choose to resolve their differences without violence. Jake Morrison understood this. He died for this principle. Now it's our job to make sure he didn't die in vain. The war had transformed humanity's position in the galaxy completely. They were no longer seen as newcomers or weak diplomats. They had become the unofficial protectors of galactic civilization, the species other worlds called when they needed help maintaining peace. Alien students began attending human universities, studying not just human military tactics, but human philosophy about justice, peace, and the protection of the innocent. Human peacekeepers served on every major world, welcomed now as protectors rather than merely mediators. Emperor Thraxer abdicated 3 months after the trial, replaced by a council that immediately signed comprehensive peace treaties with every human world. The new Victor government began the long process of rebuilding their civilization, according to principles that emphasized cooperation over conquest. 1 year after Jake Morrison's death, President Rivera returned to the memorial station for the dedication ceremony. The station's central monument was simple, a statue of Morrison in his peacekeeper uniform, with his final words carved into the base. Peace requires sacrifice, not victims. Rivera's dedication speech became one of the most quoted addresses in galactic history. We didn't want this war, he told the assembled representatives from dozens of worlds. We wanted peace. But when General Scart H. killed Jake Morrison, he forced us to choose between accepting injustice and fighting for what was right. The president paused and looked at the statue of the man whose murder had changed everything. Jake Morrison believed that the strongest species wasn't the one with the biggest weapons or the toughest warriors. He believed it was the one willing to fight, not for conquest, but for the right of others to live in peace. Today, because of his sacrifice, that principle governs our galaxy. The ceremony ended with the reading of Morrison's personal journal, discovered after his death. His final entry, written the night before his murder, said simply, "Tomorrow's mediation session will be difficult, but I believe both sides want peace." Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes good intentions and hard work can prevent a war. I hope I'm right. Jake Morrison had been wrong about preventing that particular war, but his death had prevented countless others, establishing a galactic order based on justice and protection of the innocent. In the end, his sacrifice had accomplished exactly what he had always worked for, a galaxy where peace was possible because the strong chose to protect the weak rather than prey upon them. The human species had learned a hard lesson about the price of peace, but they had also taught the galaxy an even more important lesson about the consequences of breaking it. The great hall of the Galactic Council Station buzzed with nervous energy. 12 different alien species had gathered for what many believed would be the most important meeting in galactic history. The air recyclers worked overtime to handle A mix of different atmospheres each race needed to breathe. Ambassador Veltar of the Altarian Empire stood at the center podium. His blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights as he spoke to the assembled delegates. Fellow beings, we face extinction. Not from disease or natural disaster, but from humans. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Zephyrian delegate clicked his mandibles in agreement. The Chronari representative's tentacles writhed with anxiety. Even the normally calm Etherian floated lower in their containment field. For 100 years, humanity has spread across our galaxy like a plague, Veltar continued. They take our worlds. They defeat our fleets. They ignore our laws and treaties. Every time we think we understand them, they surprise us with new weapons and tactics. In the human section of the hall, Jake Morrison sat quietly. He was a tall man with graying hair and steady eyes. Once, he had been a military commander. Now, he served as Earth's ambassador to the Council. He listened without expression as Veltar spoke. We have tried everything, the Altarian said. Economic sanctions failed. Military action failed. Diplomatic protests failed. Humans simply do not respond to normal methods of control. Lisa Parker watched from the observation deck above. She appeared to be just another human aide taking notes. In reality, she was Earth's top intelligence agent on the station. Her job was to gather information about alien plans and send it back to human space. She had been doing this job for 3 years, and the aliens still had no idea who she really was. But we have one final option, Veltar announced. Our greatest scientists have been working together in secret. They have created something that can stop the human threat once and for all. The hall fell silent. Even the constant hum of the station's machinery seemed to quiet down. We call it the Unity device, Veltar said. It broadcasts a special energy field that affects the human brain. This field will make humans peaceful. It will remove their aggressive nature. They will no longer want to fight or expand or conquer. The Zephyrian delegate spoke up. How do we know this will work? Humans are not like other species. They do not follow normal patterns. Our tests show it is effective, Veltar replied. We have captured human prisoners from recent conflicts. When exposed to the Unity field, they become calm and cooperative. They lose all desire for violence or conquest. Jake Morrison raised his hand. May I speak? The hall turned to look at him. Some delegates showed fear. Others showed hatred. All showed respect, because humans had earned that through their victories. The human representative wishes to address the council, Veltar announced. Jake stood slowly. He walked to the speaking platform with calm, measured steps. When he reached the microphone, he looked around the hall at all the assembled aliens. I have listened to your concerns, he said in a clear voice. I understand your fear. Humans have indeed been expanding across the galaxy. We have been taking worlds and building fleets. From your perspective, we must seem like a terrible threat. Several delegates nodded. The Chronari representative's tentacles stopped writhing for a moment. But I must ask you a question, Jake continued. In all our expansion, how many civilian populations have we destroyed? How many non-military targets have we attacked? How many species have we driven to extinction? The hall was silent. No one answered because they all knew the answer was 0. Humans fight soldiers and destroy military targets, Jake said. We do not make war on civilians. We do not destroy cultures or eliminate species. When we take a world, the people living there continue to live. Often, they live better than before. Veltar interrupted. But you still take what is not yours. You ignore our laws and our boundaries. Jake nodded. This is true. We do expand. We do take worlds, and we will continue to do so. The delegates shifted nervously. Some reached for communication devices to alert their home governments. "You see," Jake said, "humans have a different view of the galaxy than you do. You see a collection of territories that belong to different species. You see boundaries and laws that must be respected. We see something else entirely." He paused and looked directly at Veltar. "We see potential. We see worlds that could support more life. We see technologies that could be improved. We see species that could grow and develop beyond their current limits. Most importantly, we see a galaxy that is standing still while the universe moves forward." Lisa Parker leaned forward in the observation deck. This was not the speech Jake had planned to give. He was improvising, which meant something had changed. "Your Unity device will not work," Jake said simply. "Not because we are immune to it, but because you fundamentally misunderstand what drives us. You think we expand because we are aggressive. You think we fight because we love violence. You are wrong." He walked closer to the assembled delegates. "We expand because we see possibilities you cannot imagine. We fight because you try to stop us from reaching those possibilities. Remove our aggression, and you might make us peaceful. But you will not make us stop growing. You will not make us stop learning. You will not make us stop becoming more than we are today." The hall erupted in angry voices. Delegates shouted at each other in a dozen different languages. Security forces moved closer to the human section dot. Jake raised his voice above the noise. "You have 30 days to activate your device. We know about it. We know where it is. We know how it works. And we have prepared our response." He turned and walked back toward his seat. Before sitting down, he looked once more at the assembled delegates. "We appreciate your concerns about our expansion. However, we must respectfully decline your invitation to cease existing as we are." The chaos in the hall continued as Jake Morrison sat down. Above in the observation deck, Lisa Parker was already sending coded messages to Earth. The galaxy's final hope was about to meet humanity's unyielding response, and the humans were ready. 3 days after Jake Morrison's speech to the Galactic Council, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center of Earth's primary military station. The massive facility orbited just outside the solar system, hidden behind a network of stealth fields that made it invisible to alien sensors. "How long do we have?" she asked her chief of staff. 27 days until they activate the Unity device," came the reply. "Lisa Parker's intelligence reports suggest they're moving faster than expected." Kate nodded. She was a woman in her 50s, with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had earned her position by winning battles that everyone said were impossible to win. Today, she faced her greatest challenge yet. "Send word to all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Operation Turnabout begins now." Across human space, military bases came alive with activity. On the research station near Proxima, Centauri, Dr. Sam Mitchell received Kate's message and smiled. He had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. "Begin final preparations on all projects," he told his team. "It's time to show the galaxy what we've really been working on." Dr. Mitchell was a thin man with wild hair who looked more like a college professor than humanity's most dangerous scientist. His laboratory was filled with pieces of alien technology, but not in the way the aliens might expect. Every captured weapon, every seized computer, every alien device had been taken apart, studied, and rebuilt. "The beautiful thing about our alien friends," he explained to his assistant, "is that they think in straight lines. Each species develops technology in one direction and stops there. They never think to combine ideas from different sources." He pointed to a display showing human ship designs. "The Altarians build strong armor, but weak weapons. The Zephyrians build fast engines, but poor shields. The Chronari build good sensors, but slow computers. Each species thinks their way is the only way." His assistant looked confused. "But sir, how does that help us?" "Because humans don't think that way," Dr. Mitchell replied. "We take the best ideas from everywhere and make them work together. Our new ships have Altarian armor, Zephyrian engines, Chronari sensors, and human weapons that are better than anything any single species ever imagined." Meanwhile, in the outer rim of the galaxy, Captain Amy Chun commanded a fleet of ships that officially did not exist. Her vessels were small and fast, designed to slip past alien defenses without being detected. For the past 2 years, she had been mapping every major alien installation in the galaxy. "Ma'am, we've found it," her navigation officer reported. "The Unity device is exactly where our intelligence said it would be." Amy looked at the tactical display. The device was housed in a massive space station, protected by the combined fleets of 6 alien species. On paper, it should have been impossible. "To attack, send a coded message to Admiral Sullivan," Amy ordered. "Tell her the target is confirmed. And tell her our surprise is ready." Amy's surprise was something the aliens would never expect. Hidden in asteroid fields throughout their territory were small human bases. Each base contained a handful of ships and a few dozen soldiers. The aliens had searched for these bases for years, but never found them, because they were hidden using technology that combined stealth methods from 4 different species. Planet Kepler 442b, Colonel Ryan Bennett was training soldiers for a very special mission. His men and women were learning to use alien weapons, speak alien languages, and move through alien facilities without being detected. "Remember," he told his troops, "we are not there to destroy. We are there to capture. Every alien commander we take alive is one less enemy making decisions against us." Bennett was a quiet man who had spent his career studying alien military tactics. He knew how each species fought, what they feared, and how they would react under pressure. His soldiers were not just warriors. They were specialists who could think like aliens. "The key to beating them," he explained, "is understanding that they cannot imagine losing. For 1,000 years, these species have been the top powers in the galaxy. They have never faced an enemy that could match them, let alone defeat them. This makes them predictable." Back on the command station, Admiral Sullivan reviewed reports from across human space. Every piece was falling into place. Dr. Mitchell's hybrid technology was ready. Captain Shun's stealth fleet had located all the targets. Colonel Bennett's special forces were prepared for their missions. But the most important piece was something the aliens would never suspect. For 3 years, human agents like Lisa Parker had been working inside alien governments. They had been promoted to important positions, given access to secret information, and trusted with critical decisions. "How many of our people are in place?" Sullivan asked her intelligence chief. "We have agents in key positions in all 12 council species," came the reply. "When the time comes, they will be able to cause confusion and delay alien responses." Sullivan walked to the main display screen, which showed a map of the entire galaxy. Red dots marked alien military bases. Blue dots showed human positions. Green dots indicated the locations of secret human assets. "The aliens think they are fighting a war," she said to her staff. "They think this is about military power and who has the bigger fleet. They don't understand that we have been preparing for this moment for decades." She pointed to the center of the display, where the Unity device station was marked with a special symbol. "They built their weapon to make us peaceful. They think that will solve their problem. But they made one critical mistake." Her staff waited for her to continue. "They assume that aggression is what makes us dangerous. They think that if they remove our desire to fight, we will become harmless. But our strength has never been aggression. Our strength is adaptation." The room was silent as everyone considered her words. "In 27 days, they will activate their device. They expect us to try to destroy it. They expect us to attack with our largest fleets and our most powerful weapons. They are prepared for that kind of fight." Sullivan smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Instead, we are going to capture their weapon. We are going to turn it against them. And we are going to show them what happens when humans adapt their own technology against them." She turned to face her command staff. "Send the final orders. To all units. Operation Turnabout is now active. In 27 days, the galaxy will discover that humanity's greatest strength is not our ability to fight, but our ability to learn." Across human space, ships began moving toward their targets. The aliens thought they were fighting a war, but the humans were about to teach them the difference between fighting and winning. The day had come. Across the galaxy, alien forces prepared to activate the Unity device that would finally stop human expansion. On the massive space station that housed the weapon, Admiral Veltar watched his screens with satisfaction. Everything was ready. "Begin the activation sequence," he ordered. "In 1 hour, the human threat will be ended forever." What Veltar did not know was that human ships were already moving toward his station. Captain Matt Williams commanded a fleet that looked impossibly small for such an important mission. Only 12 ships approached the heavily defended alien position. "All ships, report status," Matt said into his communication device. "Ship 2 ready," came the first reply. "Hybrid systems online. Ship 3 ready. Stealth fields active." One by one, all 12 ships confirmed they were prepared. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining the best technology from multiple alien species with improvements that no single race had ever imagined. Lieutenant Beth Crawford sat at the technology station on Matt's ship. Her job was to take control of the Unity device once they captured the station. She had spent 3 years studying alien computer systems and knew them better than most aliens did. "Captain, I'm detecting the activation sequence," she reported. "They're starting the process now." "Good," Matt replied. "That means all their attention is focused on the device. They won't notice us until it's too late." At the same moment, across 17 different star systems, Commander Alex Turner was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. From his command ship, he watched as human forces struck alien military bases simultaneously. "Strike Team Alpha, report," he said. "Altarian home fleet destroyed," came the reply. "No survivors escaped." "Strike Team Beta, report. Zephyrian Command Center captured. All senior officers in custody." "Strike Team Gamma, report. Chronari shipyards offline. Production facilities intact, but under human control." One by one, the reports came in. Every major alien military installation was either destroyed or captured. The alien species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were watching their power crumble in a single day. Dr. Susan Blake monitored alien communications from her position on Turner's command ship. As a specialist in alien psychology, she was tracking how different species reacted to the sudden attacks. "Commander, the aliens are in complete panic," she reported. "Their military leaders are trying to coordinate a response, but they can't communicate with each other. Our agents have cut their command networks." "What about civilian populations?" Turner asked. "Confusion and fear, but no mass panic. They don't understand what's happening yet. Most think this is just another small human raid." Turner nodded. The human strategy was working perfectly. Strike fast, hit military targets only, and avoid civilian casualties. This approach terrified alien leaders more than random destruction. Would, because it showed that humans could be precise when they chose to be. Back at the Unity device station, Captain Williams' small fleet had reached attack range. The alien defenders finally noticed them and sounded alarm signals throughout the station. 12 human ships approaching. An alien officer shouted, All defensive systems activate. Admiral Veltar looked at his tactical display in disbelief. 12 ships? They send 12 ships against our entire defensive fleet? Are they insane? Perhaps they plan to sacrifice themselves to stop the device, his aide suggested. Let them come, Veltar decided. Our shields can handle anything they throw at us. Continue the activation sequence. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The 12 human ships did not attack the station directly. Instead, they split into 4 groups and moved in a complex pattern that confused the alien defenders. Enemy ships are dancing. One alien gunner reported. They're not attacking, another said. What are they doing? Lieutenant Crawford watched her instruments carefully. Captain, their confusion is giving us the time we need. I'm detecting weak points in their shield grid. All ships execute pattern. Omega, Matt ordered. The human vessels suddenly accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. Using hybrid engines that combined technology from 3 different species, they moved faster than alien sensors could track. The first alien ship to fire missed completely. The second ship's weapons hit empty space where a human vessel had been a moment before. The third ship managed to hit a human vessel, but its weapons bounced harmlessly off armor that used alien defensive technology improved by human engineering. Impossible, Veltar shouted. Their ships are too small to have that kind of armor. Sir, their weapons are penetrating our shields. A tactical officer reported in panic. The human ships were using a combination of energy weapons from 4 different alien species, all powered by human reactor designs that produced twice as much energy as anything the aliens had ever built. Each shot cut through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Within 15 minutes, half the alien defensive fleet was destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but human vessels were too fast and too maneuverable to escape. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet, an alien communication officer announced. Put it on screen, Veltar ordered. Captain Williams appeared on the display. He looked calm and professional, like a man doing a routine job. Admiral Veltar, this is Captain Williams of the human fleet. You have 60 seconds to surrender your station and turn off all defensive systems. If you comply, your crew will not be harmed. Never, Veltar shouted. Activate the Unity device now. Full power. Sir, the activation sequence isn't complete, his chief engineer protested. I don't care. Turn it on. Lieutenant Crawford smiled as she watched the alien device begin to operate. Captain, they're doing exactly what we hoped they would do. Explain. Matt said, by activating the device early, they've made it unstable. I can now access their control systems and take over the entire station from here. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. 3 years of studying alien technology had prepared her for this moment. She bypassed their security systems, overrode their safety protocols, and began taking control of the Unity device. What's happening? Veltar demanded, as alarms began sounding throughout his station. Sir, we're losing control of our own systems, an engineer reported. Something is taking over our computers. The humans are inside our network, another officer said in disbelief. On Williams' ship, Beth Crawford announced a success. Captain, I have complete control of the Unity device. The station is ours. Across the galaxy, Commander Turner was receiving similar reports from all 17 strike zones. Alien military forces were surrendering or fleeing. Their command structure was collapsing. Their greatest weapon now belonged to humanity. Dr. Blake, what's the psychological impact? Turner asked. Complete demoralization, she replied. They're not just defeated, they're comprehensively outmatched. Many alien leaders are already requesting surrender terms. And civilian populations? Still confused, but beginning to understand that their military has been completely defeated. Most are waiting to see what humans do next. Turner looked at his tactical display. In a single day, humanity had captured or destroyed the military power of 12 alien species. The Unity device that was supposed to pacify humans was now under human control. The galaxy's final hope had not just failed, it had become humanity's greatest asset. Send a message to all human forces, Turner ordered. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2, occupation and reconstruction. The war was over. Now the real work would begin. 2 weeks after the Unity device fell into human hands, Ambassador Luke Davis stood in what used to be the Altarian Council Chamber. The grand room with its blue crystal walls had once been the center of power for one of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. Now it served as the temporary headquarters for human relief operations. How many refugees do we have? Luke asked his aide. Approximately 2 million Altarians have fled their home worlds, came the reply. Most are gathered in 3 main camps on the outer colonies. Luke nodded thoughtfully. He was a man in his 40s with kind eyes and a calm manner that helped put aliens at ease. His job was one of the most difficult in human space, managing the humanitarian crisis that followed humanity's rapid victory. Make sure all camps have adequate food and medical supplies, he ordered, and send translation teams to explain that we're not planning to harm civilian populations. The Altarian refugees were not alone in their fear. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens were trying to understand what had happened to their worlds. Some species had surrendered immediately after seeing their fleets destroyed. Others had retreated to their home systems and closed their borders. A few were still trying to organize resistance movements. General Chris Harper was dealing with the most difficult cases. His office was located on the former Zephyrian Military Command Station, which now served as the center for human occupation forces. Chris was a large man with a serious face who had spent his career planning complex military operations. Now he was using those same skills to rebuild conquered alien worlds. General, we have a problem on Zephyr Prime, his chief of staff reported. Local leaders are refusing to cooperate with our administration teams. What's their complaint? Chris asked. They say humans have no right to govern their world. They want their old government restored. Chris looked at the tactical display showing Zephyr Prime. The planet had been one of the most heavily defended worlds in alien space, but it had fallen to human forces in less than 6 hours. Schedule a meeting with their leadership council. He decided, it's time to explain how things work now. 3 days later, Chris sat across from 12 Zephyrian officials in a conference room that had been hastily set up on their conquered world. The aliens looked nervous and angry, with their insect-like features twitching in agitation. We demand that you withdraw from our world, the lead Zephyrian declared. You have no legal authority here. You're right, Chris replied calmly. We have no legal authority under your old laws, but those laws no longer apply. What gives you the right to change our laws? Victory, Chris said simply. We defeated your military. We captured your government. We now control your territory. This gives us the authority to establish new laws. The Zephyrians buzzed angrily among themselves. Finally, their leader spoke again. What do you plan to do with us? The same thing we've done on every other world. We've taken, Chris explained. We will rebuild your infrastructure. We will establish fair and efficient government. We will protect your people from harm. And we will give you opportunities to participate in the new system. As your slaves? As citizens, Chris corrected. Any Zephyrian who demonstrates competence and loyalty can hold important positions in the new administration. The best qualified. Individuals will be promoted, regardless of their species. One of the younger Zephyrians leaned forward. And if we refuse to cooperate? Chris's expression did not change, then you will be replaced by someone who will cooperate. Your people will continue to live under human administration with or without your help. The only question is whether you want to be part of building the new system or watching from the sidelines. Across the galaxy, Dr. Mary Johnson was having more positive conversations. Her team worked with alien scientists and leaders who had chosen to embrace human rule rather than resist it. Her laboratory was located on a space station that orbited the neutral zone between human and former alien territory. Dr. Johnson, the Chronari research team has made a breakthrough, her assistant announced. Mary looked up from her work. She was a middle-aged woman with silver hair who had spent her career studying alien cultures. Since the war ended, she had been working to integrate willing alien scientists into human research programs. What kind of breakthrough? She asked. They figured out how to combine their bioengineering techniques with our computer technology. The result is a processing system that's 20% more efficient than anything either species had developed separately. Mary smiled. This was exactly what she had hoped would happen. Excellent. Make sure the Chronari team gets full credit for their work and begin testing the new system immediately. The integration programs were producing results across many different fields. Alien engineers were learning human construction techniques and improving them with their own knowledge. Human doctors were working with alien medical specialists to develop new treatments. Scientists from multiple species were collaborating on projects that no single race could have completed alone. Captain Jane Foster commanded the ships that made all of this cooperation possible. Her fleet patrolled the spaces between worlds, ensuring that resistance groups could not disrupt the reconstruction efforts. Jane was a tough woman with short black hair who had earned her command through years of successful missions. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the Vega system, her communication officer reported. What's the situation? Jane asked. A group of Altarian militants has seized a mining station. They're demanding that humans withdraw from their territory. Jane studied the tactical display. The mining station was small and lightly defended, but it provided resources that several nearby colonies needed to survive. How many hostages? She asked. Approximately 50 alien workers and 5 human supervisors. Take us to the Vega system, Jane ordered, and prepare a boarding team. 6 hours later, Jane's ship reached the mining station. The Altarian militants had barricaded themselves inside the control center and were threatening to destroy the facility if humans did not leave their space. This is Captain Foster of the human fleet, Jane announced over the communication channel. You have 30 minutes to release all hostages and surrender. If you comply, you will be treated fairly under human law. We will never surrender to human invaders, came the angry reply. Jane turned to her tactical officer. Can we take the station without harming the hostages? Yes, ma'am. The militants are using old Altarian weapons that can't penetrate our armor. We can neutralize them easily. 20 minutes later, human soldiers had secured the mining station. The militants were captured alive, the hostages were freed, and the facility was back in operation. It was a small incident, but it demonstrated an important point. Resistance to human rule was becoming increasingly hopeless. Back on his command station, General Harper received reports from across human-controlled space. Most alien populations were adapting to their new circumstances. Infrastructure was being rebuilt faster than anyone had expected. Economic production was actually increasing on many worlds as human efficiency methods were implemented. The integration is proceeding ahead of schedule, his aide reported. Most alien species are discovering that life under human administration is more stable and prosperous than what they had before. Chris nodded. Any major resistance movements? A few scattered groups, but Captain Foster's patrols are keeping them contained. Most aliens are choosing cooperation over continued fighting. Good. Begin Phase 3 planning. It's time to start thinking about long-term governance structures. The galaxy was changing rapidly. Old boundaries were disappearing. Ancient rivalries were being replaced by new forms of cooperation. And everywhere humans went, they brought not just order, but opportunity for growth that the alien species had never imagined possible. The war was over, but the real transformation was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the Unity device fell into human hands. The galaxy that emerged from those chaotic days was almost unrecognizable from what had existed before. President Carl Thompson stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Administration Center, looking out at a sight that would have amazed anyone from the old days. Dot ships from dozens of different species moved through the traffic lanes around the station. Galterian cargo vessels flew alongside human frigates. Zephyrian passenger ships shared space with Karnari research vessels. What had once been separate, hostile territories was now a single, unified civilization. Mr. President, the morning briefing is ready, his aide announced. Carl nodded and walked to the conference room. He was a man in his early 50s with gray hair and intelligent eyes. Before the war, he had been a colonial administrator on a small human settlement. Now he governed the entire galaxy, though the title of president was somewhat misleading. He had been elected by representatives from all species, not just humans. What's the first item? He asked as he took his seat. Economic report from Dr. Baker. His aide replied. Dr. Helen Baker appeared on the communication screen from her office on the research station near the galactic core. She was a cheerful woman with blonde hair who had spent the past 5 years working to integrate alien technologies and societies into the new galactic system. Good morning, Mr. President, she said. I have excellent news to report. Economic productivity across all member systems has increased by 40% over pre-war levels. How is that possible? Carl asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Integration benefits, Helen explained. When species share their technologies and work together instead of competing, everyone benefits. The Alterians are using human manufacturing techniques to build better ships. The Zephyrians are applying Chronari bioengineering to improve their agriculture. Humans are combining alien innovations to develop completely new technologies. Carl smiled. This was exactly what human planners had hoped would happen. Any problems to report? Minor issues only. Some older aliens still have trouble adapting to the new systems, but their children are growing up as full galactic citizens. In 10 more years, the transition will be complete. Thank you, Dr. Baker. Next item. The next report came from Admiral Lisa Martinez, who commanded the Galactic Defense Force from her flagship in the Outer Rim territories. Lisa was a small woman with dark hair and sharp eyes, who had been promoted to her position after proving she could command mixed-species fleets better than anyone else. Security report, Mr. President, she said from her ship's bridge. All sectors remain peaceful. The last resistance group was disbanded 6 months ago, when their leaders accepted amnesty and joined the regular administration. Carl was pleased to hear this. The integration of former enemies into the new system had been one of his biggest concerns. What about fleet readiness? Excellent, sir. We now have ships and crew members from 17 different species serving together. The new vessels that combine technologies from multiple races are performing beyond all expectations. Carl could see alien officers working alongside humans on Lisa's bridge. A Zephyrian navigation specialist worked next to a human weapons officer. A Chronari engineer consulted with an Alterian pilot. They moved together like parts of a well-designed machine. Any external threats? Carl asked. None from within the galaxy, Lisa replied. All former hostile species are now part of our system. However, our long-range sensors have detected some interesting signals from beyond our galactic borders. This was news to Carl. Explain. Captain Shaw's exploration fleet has been monitoring extragalactic space. They found evidence of civilizations in nearby galaxies that may be more advanced than anything we've encountered so far. Carl made a note to discuss this with his Security Council later. For now, it was enough to know that the galaxy itself was secure and peaceful. The final report came from Captain David Shaw, who commanded the joint exploration fleets that pushed beyond the galaxy's edge. David was a young man with brown hair and excited eyes who loved discovering new things. His ships contained volunteers from many different species, all working together to explore the unknown. "Mr. President, we've made several important discoveries," David announced from his ship's laboratory. "First, we've confirmed that there are at least 3 major civilizations in the nearby Andromeda galaxy. Second, they appeared to have noticed our activities and are sending scout ships in our direction." "Are they hostile?" Carl asked. "Unknown, sir, but they're definitely curious about us. Our best estimate is that their scouts will reach our galaxy within 2 years. Carl felt a familiar excitement. Humanity had spent 5 years integrating the species of this galaxy. Soon, they might face the challenge of dealing with completely new civilizations from beyond their borders. "Keep monitoring the situation," he ordered, and begin preparing first contact protocols. After the briefings ended, Carl walked back to the observation deck. The view outside showed him everything humanity had accomplished. The Unity device that was supposed to pacify humans had been converted into the galaxy's communication network, allowing instant contact between any 2 points in space. Former enemies now worked together on projects that benefited everyone. Technologies that had stagnated for thousands of years were advancing rapidly through cross-species cooperation. An Altarian engineer approached Carl on the observation deck. "Mr. President, may I speak with you?" "Of course," Carl replied. "My name is Engineer Velkoth. I wanted to thank you for what humans have done for our people." Carl was surprised. "Thank me?" "We conquered your worlds and ended your independence." The Altarian's blue skin shimmered as he spoke. "Yes, you conquered us, but you also freed us from ourselves. For 3,000 years, my people followed the same patterns, used the same technologies, thought the same thoughts. We were trapped in our own traditions." He gestured toward the busy space lanes outside the window. "Now my children work on human ships, learning new ways to solve old problems. They will accomplish things my generation could never imagine. You gave us a future we could never have created alone." Carl watched as a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together to guide a massive cargo ship into the docking bay. "We gave you opportunity. What you do with it is up to you." "That is exactly what makes humans different," the Altarian replied. "Other species would have made us slaves or destroyed us completely. You made us partners." As the Altarian engineer walked away, Carl thought about the future. The galaxy was unified and prosperous. New technologies were being developed every day. The various species were learning to work together in ways that made everyone stronger. And now, new challenges were approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge. Civilizations that might be even more advanced than anything they had encountered before. Carl smiled. Humanity had proven they could adapt to any challenge and turn any threat into an opportunity. The Unity device that was meant to be humanity's and had become the foundation of galactic civilization. Whatever came from the distant galaxies, humans would find a way to meet it, understand it, and ultimately benefit from it. The galaxy's final hope had indeed shattered under humanity's strike. But from those shattered pieces, something far greater had been built. And the best was yet to come.